So, Jagdish sir, so last time you were saying that you have seen a reference where it is mentioned that the time taken for Saturn to come around the Sun is the same as the time taken for Saturn to come around the Earth, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is that source, sir?
No, that is our horoscope and everything. The astrologers, no, sir.
Okay.
So that is astronomy purely. They study about mathematics only. Then, okay, that Jupiter takes 12 years to complete the revolution of the Earth. Earth as a center, and it takes 30 years. And same as Mars and everything, whatever they say, everything. It is true for both. So that basis, I said that is the story.
Okay.
But on what basis they say, I don't know actually.
Okay, fine. So actually, we can study that. Let me share my screen now.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So yeah. So last time, is my screen visible?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So last time I addressed questions. We will come to that one by one. Before going to that, because those questions are of a bit subtle and bit abstract in nature, so I just thought of starting something concrete, and then we will go to that. Okay, so we were discussing planetary motions, right? So we were just discussing this case of a sun and just two planets orbiting around it. This case of one planet and another planet. This is planet 1 and this is planet 2. Okay, planet 1 and planet 2. Right. So we'll just start with the problem. Now suppose at this given instant, all the three bodies are in a straight line. So all three in a straight line. At this moment. Now the question is, when will they come along a straight line again? So when will they fall on a straight line again? When they fall on a line again. Right. So just assume that these two are circular orbits, and the plane of revolution is the same. The plane of revolution of P1 and P2 is the same. Just make these assumptions, even though my figure doesn't add support to that. Okay. So now, if you have to find out when will they fall on the same line again, will you be able to do it?
we need to know how fast they're moving, right?
Exactly. We need to know how fast they are moving. Okay.
One more is if it find out its LCM, we get it that they come to when they come to same point once again we can calculate.
Okay, right. So what we will do is we will take the planet 1.
We take Earth and Mars, sir. It is very interesting.
Yeah, actually, I don't have any statistics. So if I had,
it is 365 days and 684 days, I think. Mars.
Okay, but we have made another assumption here. The assumption is the
both are taking
revolution of Earth and the Mars. Sorry, the plane of revolution of the two planets are the same.
How it could be, sir? If both are in different orbits, means how it could be?
If both are in different planes, suppose this is the sun, Earth is coming like this, and I'm just giving a drastic exaggeration, and Mars is coming something like this.
Okay.
Right. So this is tilted and this is horizontal. In that case, it is more complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, it becomes very complicated in that case. So we'll just take this case, planet one. Let me give it as 11 days. It takes 11 days to come around the sun, and planet two, it takes 13 days to come around the sun. This is some hypothetical number. So when will they fall on us? Straight line again.
143 days. 143th day they will come together once again.
Yeah, I'll just respond in a few minutes.
Can you tell something about the size of their orbit?
No information is known. Okay, so now let us take one simpler example to see Jagdish sir's response. Okay, so let us take that we have this star and the two orbits, one orbit and another orbit. Let us take that they are now in the straight line. This takes 2 days to make one revolution, and this takes 1 day to make a revolution. So, sir, yes, sir. So now, when do you think they'll again fall on the same line again? After how many days?
Day 4, sir.
Every second day will take, because in the
1 and a
first
half
revolution, within a day it will cover. Then it takes, within first day it covers half of them, and remaining second day it comes back again, come to same point.
Yeah. What did you say? 4 days, is it?
Every second, 2 days once they will meet together.
Yeah.
So they will meet
lining
together
up-
every 2 days.
Lining up on one on one side of the star and the other on the other side, that can happen. So after 1 day, the smaller orbit would have finished, and it would be on the left hand side. The outer one would be on the other side, so they're still in line.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah, within a day it will come same
Ah,
point, but
Correct. Yes. On the
but,
same plane. Yes.
but the same point they will come once again 2 days.
Ah, right.
Hmm. But first one takes 1 day complete. Different day, half of the day it will complete. That it comes to line. Half of it.
Yes.
Hmm.
Right. So now, if we are just considering that both the planets are just one side of the sun, then right, this we can take the least common multiple. But then, if there is a possibility, if you are also including the possibility of the planets lying either side of the sun, then what approach can we take? So now, with this insight, if you look at 11 and 13, what can you tell?
Sir, in 11 and 13 days, the difference between days are 2. Okay, then if you take half of it again, it becomes 5.5 and 6.5. Again, the difference became 1 there. Again, half of it is 2.75 days and 3.75 days. The difference may be 0 like that. That day they will come to.
So you're taking the time taken for the planet to go to the opposite end of both the planets.
Yes, sir, like that.
Yeah, so this will take, so this planet will take
No, come to a line.
5.
Hmm.
Yes, so this planet will take 5.5 days to go to the opposite.
Yeah.
And this second planet will take 6.5 days to go to the opposite end.
Yes.
Right.
Then the difference will become 1.
Yeah.
The difference is 1 here.
Yes. Correct.
Then again, I made it half of it again.
So again, the difference will become half.
Yeah. So that becomes zero. Difference becomes zero means I felt that is a.
Exactly.
Oh.
No. The difference, no, if you keep seeing it half off, then the difference may not go to zero, right?
Again, one remains as one.
Yeah. But some, yeah, so difference here, right? You can characterize this as some difference, but what difference can we take?
So I did planet 1 moves 360 by 11 degrees in a day. So that's approximately 33. And planet 2 will move 360 by 13. That's approximately 28 degrees every day.
Right.
So they will be lined up when 33x minus 28x is 360, or 30 is a multiple of 360. Yeah. Or 33x minus 28x is a multiple of 180. Then it will be on multiple of 180, but not multiple of 360.
Yeah.
And it will be on opposite sides. So then,
right. So now, did you see the advantage of extending the definition of angle beyond 360?
yes.
Right. So it creates a nice framework. So now let us just observe this. Now let us keep this as 0 degrees. So this is in between. In the beginning, both the planets are at 0 degree with respect to this line. Now we'll just try to compare the angles covered by both the planets. Okay. Now suppose now after one day, how many degrees would the first planet have covered and the second planet have covered?
First is 33 degrees approximately.
Yeah, so 360. So the first planet takes basically 11 days to cover 360 degrees. Right. So in one day, the amount of rotation is, as Gauri ma'am said, 360 by 11. This is for planet 1. Planet 2, in one day, it rotates 360 by 13 degrees. Okay, we'll just keep this as the velocity, the angle velocity. It's called angular velocity. We'll just keep it as angular velocity as W1 and this as W2. We have the angular velocity of both these planets per day, this many degrees per day. Now, suppose they meet after T days. Suppose they meet after T days, then what would be the angle covered by planet 1? And what would be the angle covered by planet 2? Just take some time to look at. We have these basic information here. Okay. So now, usually when we define angle in a circle, right? So it goes anti-clockwise, but here it is, we are going clockwise. Another thing is, now this is 0, this is 90, and then this becomes 180, and this becomes 270. And then this point, we can take it as 0 or even 360 degrees. So while defining angles, we just don't stop with 360, but even go beyond it. So we keep this as 360, and then this is also 360 plus 90, which is 450, and so on. So basically, if I say make a rotation of 1000 degrees, this has a meaning in this, isn't it? Right. So now with this expanded definition of angle, right? Now in one day it travels 360 by 11 degrees. So in T days, how many degrees will planet cover?
360 by 11 times 6.
Yes. So 360 by 11 times t. And planet 2 will cover 360 by 13 times t, this many degrees. Right. Yeah. So this question is a bit yeah, you need a bit of algebra to see uh, this way of saying. So now suppose it meets after capital T days. So sorry, suppose the three objects come in a line after capital T days. Then what can we say about the angle covered by planet 1 and angle covered by planet 2? Suppose at this point after T days, the three objects come in the same line. What can you say about the angle covered by P1 and P2? Or more specifically, what can you tell us between these angles?
Has to be the same, right?
Huh?
It should be equal, right? If they are at the same place, then the total angle covered must be
Equal?
either equal or a multiple of
Opposite.
360.
Okay, equal or a multiple of 360, yes. But what about this case with the planets being in the opposite side of the sun? Then what is the difference in the angle covered?
Then the difference
180
is 180.
degree. 180.
180 degree, right? So how can we generalize this and say now what should be the difference?
Multiple of 180 is good enough because 360 is also a multiple of 1.
So angle covered by P1 minus angle covered by P2. This should be some multiple of 180. Is it just positive multiple or it could be even negative multiple? So yeah, so here you can take some time to actually draw and see to get a feel of it. So this is some multiple. Can this be positive or negative? So basically here it's a multiple of 180, but is it a positive multiple of 180 or even a negative multiple is okay?
So it can be negative also because here we have either P1 and P2, we have not assumed that both are going clockwise or anti-clockwise. So it can be going either ways.
Oh, both going opposite directions will make it still more interesting, right?
Yeah.
Wow. But here we are
in fact, there are more possibilities. No, P1 is rotated clockwise, P2 anti-clockwise, then reverse, then both clockwise, then both anti-clockwise.
Correct.
4 cases can be evaluated.
Correct. Coming back to this case where both are going clockwise, right? Both are going clockwise. What can be said about this multiple of 180? Should it be only the positive multiple or it can be a negative multiple also?
P1 is going faster than P2, so it will actually never come negative.
Right. So if P1 is faster than P2, it will never be negative. Right? Because at any given instant, P1 would have covered more angle than would have done more revolution than P2.
Correct. Yeah.
So this has to be positive. Right. So now for our given question, after T days, suppose they meet after T days, then the angle covered by P1 is
360 by 11 T.
So you just saw here that in T days, planet 1 covers 360 by 11 into T degrees, and plan to cover 360 by 13 into t. Now, let us assume that they meet for the first time after t days. Then we have 360t being angle of p1 minus 360t by 13 is some multiple of 180 degrees, right? Right. And we need to find the smallest t which satisfies this. So I just removed t from both of this and took the difference to the other side. Now to calculate t, what can be done?
You can take n equal to 1 and just solve these origins.
Yeah. Since we're looking for the smallest t, and n equal to 1, and this becomes 180 divided by
So t will be 11 into 13 by 4.
11 into,
Because the relation between t and n is t is equal to 11 into 13 into n divided by 4.
okay, n into 11 into 13 divided by 4.
Someone can even recheck
Right.
that. I'm pretty sure it's correct only. But so
Yeah.
here, if we substitute n equal to 1, so to get the minimum value of t, we'll get 11 into 13 by 4 because n is equal to 1.
Correct. Correct.
So that is roughly
These many, exactly after this many days,
Hmm.
the both the planets will come in the same line. So the line showing both the planets will include sun. Right. So now, in if suppose all the planets of in the solar system were revolving in the same plane, or if we just focus on Earth, Moon, and Sun, right? Then if the plane of revolution of Earth and plane of revolution of Earth around the Sun, and the plane of revolution of Moon around the Earth, if both of them are same, right? Then how often will we get eclipses?
Every day.
Every day. How
No.
every day?
No. Okay. Every 28 days, the cycle of moon.
So yeah, every 28 days we should get an eclipse, right? If the actual this is sun and this is the orbit of Earth and this is the orbit of Moon, right? So if all the planes are if all of them are in the same plane, then when the Moon is here, we'll be getting an eclipse. We'll be getting an eclipse. Then when will the next eclipse happen? After this.
After 15.
After this.
15 days.
After 15 days, it will come to the opposite side.
Yes. Then it is also come live.
So that is lunar eclipse. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So basically, we'll have a lunar eclipse and solar eclipse every month.
Yes.
Right.
Not exactly a month. There are a bit of
14 to 15 days.
14 to 15 days. And also, Earth also keeps moving. So, okay. This is okay. Right. So, okay. So let us come back to revisit some of the questions that we had raised last time. Any comments on that from your side?
I also agreed with Sunil sir that all motion is relative. Absolute motion, I can't think how that would be or what that would be. Every motion I can think of seems to be relative.
Okay, so then what happens to the question of whether the Earth is moving or is it at rest? So from
Whether the Earth is moving or is it at rest?
what happens to this question?
I also agree with what everyone was saying. It's relative. So if you're on Earth, it looks like Earth is not moving. It's a point. I mean, if point of reference is Earth.
Okay, yes. So relative motions are well understood. So with respect to Sun, Earth is moving. It is clear from the sky. With
Yeah.
respect to us, Earth is at rest. So yeah. Things are clear.
Yeah.
But the this question of whether the Earth is moving or at rest, what happens to this?
That's an incomplete question. No?
Very
Can't be
interesting.
answered.
Very interesting. But on Earth, we seem to be able to answer, right? We are able to say whether the train is moving or the tree is moving.
Because our reference is with respect to Earth, so by default.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
So always we are
even if something seems to be moving, like on the Earth, if something is moving on the Earth, that might seem to be at rest with respect to an external body. If that external body is actually having similar movement, right? So everything is relative.
Yeah. So what makes this question? What do you think? So, like, what makes this question seem so right at the beginning?
Because we are so used to taking reference points without explicitly mentioning it.
Yeah. So on Earth, whenever we talk about any motion on Earth, we always have Earth, some point in Earth as a reference, right? So this question of whether the train is moving or not, whether the tree is moving or not, seems to have an answer, right? So we seem to think that we seem to assign an absolute nature to these things, right? Because of seeing things on Earth. And then when we try to use the same framework in space, you can see, right? You can see the gap.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now this takes us to the next question: is the Earth moving around the Sun or the Sun moving around the Earth?
So the first hypothesis in this would be Sun is moving around the Earth because we are on Earth. Our reference point is Earth, so it looks like Sun is moving around the Earth. That is the first conjecture that was made and that anyone would logically make. But there are other things in the sky, and it is by observing there are other bodies in the sky, and the motion of these bodies is what causes the conflict in the theory. So the theory had to be adjusted. So, like for example, Jupiter apparently follows a looping kind of motion with respect to Earth, and that kind of motion could not be explained by any of the existing laws of gravity. I don't know, but that kind of orbit cannot be explained.
No. So here there is a correction. It was not that those could not be explained using the geocentric model. So they had come up with this epicycles. I think I don't know if you have heard of it.
Yeah.
So they were able to come up with models which are very complicated. Actually, it was very complicated, messy model. But yeah, so of course, so to the best of their knowledge, they're come up with a model. But then, yeah, it might not have explained certain motions of planets. I agreed. But then, are you saying that it is impossible to do that with Earth as a reference?
yeah, I think that will lead to conflict. I think there are not just epicycles, but in cases of, I don't know, something called retrograde motion, when it seems to be moving in one direction
So
and
what?
then suddenly it changes direction.
So what? So what? So what?
That's not okay. And there is also a case where the orbit does not actually close.
No, okay, so now to make things easy, right? To make things easy, can we take a wrong? So maybe if we start with a wrong assumption, the model might become easy, right? So does that, and taking the right assumption makes the model more messy. Does this justify for us to go towards this wrong assumption just because the resulting model becomes easy?
No.
Right. So again, I would like to generate the same question. What is the meaning of when you say that absolute motion cannot be defined? Then what is the meaning? What is the difference between Earth moving around the sun and sun moving around the Earth? Right. Fine. Yeah. So
Science says, 1 minute, sir. Hello, sir. Science says that is a, they would consider as a Earth, the sun as a reference point, and they say all the planets are moving. But when I come to Indian astronomy or some astrologers say that is Earth is the reference point and they will move, then in both cases they are equal. Am I right? This way we can say that is planetary motions are so they'll take same periods then.
okay. So the framework that you are asking, sir, is the sun. Okay, and we are considering two planets moving around the sun. Two planet two, planet two, and planet one. Right now, if I keep this as a frame of reference, the frame of reference is something which we for the sake of modeling. So frame of reference is something which for our model we take some object to be at rest. We take some object to be at rest and then compare the other motions. And then we compare the other motions with respect to this. Okay. So now with respect to sun, this planet 1, planet 2 are moving in circles, right? So
Yes.
if you just change this to planet 1 as the frame of reference, if I move the frame of, now here the frame of reference is sun, if I change the frame of reference as P1,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What can you tell about the path of sun? How would the sun be with respect to P1?
Same as P1.
You mean like circle 1, circle 2? It is same as circle 1.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Fine. This is same as circle 1. Then what about planet P2? If you have to plot the path of P2 with respect to P1, how will it be?
It might depend on the speed, the differences in their speeds of revolution. But for double speed,
Yeah, go ahead.
for double speed, I worked it out. It comes kind of like a heart shape with one overlap.
Yes, nice. No, if they are equal speed, if the angular velocity is same, then
if angular velocity is same.
So if both P1 and P2 move at the same angular velocity, that is at any point, if you see, there always been a straight line. Okay,
Then
let us just.
there is no revolution kind of motion, but it will seem like it's rotating.
Okay, so when we are considering the revolution in our case, the body is not rotating. Okay, so we are just fixing. This is the sun. Okay, we are just fixing an axis here. This is positive y-axis, positive x-axis. Okay,
Right.
this is the north, and the north pole of P1 and P2 will always be fixed. The position is fixed here.
Right. So when P2 comes to the other side of P1, then it will be showing the other face, its other face, right? So it will actually
Yes.
look like a rotation. From
Okay,
P1,
fine. So
P2 will seem to be static in the sky, but if there are some markers, then it will seem like it is rotating.
no. Can you repeat again? So for
There
P1,
should be some features on P2 to recognize that it has changed, right? Otherwise, we will not know. So if there are some features, then it will look like it is rotating.
okay, fine. So what you are saying is, if P1 and P2 are rotating at the same angular velocity,
Yeah.
say someone is able to see, now just assume that the star, whatever it is not illuminating the entire, it's not illuminating the entire sky, but I can always see whatever is there in the sky. Just let us assume that. Now suppose for an observer at a place, if the observer is able to see P2, then he'll always be able to see P2 at that point.
Yes, same point. But
And
the features on P2 will keep changing.
What?
But the features on P2, like if you look at it through a telescope, that will change. But the position is the same, it will never change.
Okay, fine. So now let me ask a question. So now let us keep P1 and P2 here. Okay, P1 is and P2 is here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let us assume that there's a person standing on the north pole of P1. Okay, and he's looking exactly westward. P2. Okay, and now his orientation is not going to change at all. You think he'll always be able to see P2?
No. Okay, is that the North Pole?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, no. The next question is, okay, if he's not in North Pole, if he's in some other position and he's able to spot P2, I repeat the same question again. Will he be able to see P2 always at the same point?
No. So if there is, if the person is on, if the person is, let's say, on the left-hand side of, west of P1, then when P1 goes to the other side of the sun, he will not be able to see P2.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
So now what will be the path of P2 with respect to P1?
Good.
Yeah, take some time. So basically what I'm saying is, I will just draw here. So this is P1 and this is P2. This is the orbit of P1 and this is the orbit of P2. So now suppose, and we're taking that both are going at the same angular velocity. Now, initially, Gauri ma'am and even Sunil last time they are saying that if somebody is able to see this, if somebody in planet 1 is able to see planet 2, he'll be able to see P2 forever. Throughout the year, always planet 2 will be visible at the same point. That's a very nice thing, right? If you're always able to see something on the sky at the same point from a given place, that's very nice. You can use that as that direction. And North Pole, so the pole star was something similar to this. Right. But yeah, not exactly, but somewhat similar. So there is a person here standing and is looking at this westward. Planet 2 is visible. Will it always be visible when this person is looking westward? If you just take that this planet has moved 45 degrees, this also would have moved 45 degrees. But for this person who is still looking westward, he won't be able to see the planet here.
Right. It will look like P2 is going around P1 with an orbit of size C2 minus C1.
Exactly. R2 minus R1. Yes. So here, with respect to P1, planet 2 is going at in a circular orbit. So basically, if you change the frame of reference to P1, then you would have something like this. You have P1, and then depending on the distance between the sun, and we'll just keep this to be large. This is larger than this. Then we'll have sun going somewhere around here. We'll have sun going somewhere around here, and P2, the planet 2, will be making a revolution here. So this is if we change the frame of reference.
Right. But P1 will never block the sun. Okay, but that okay, even if it's the same plane, P2 will never block the sun. It can never cause an eclipse.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Correct. So if we change the frame of reference to P1, this is how the model will change. So these are all models, right? But then when we ask actually which is at center, actually which is moving around what? Is the sun moving around the earth or earth moving around the sun? What will happen is something which you can think for some time and then get back. Angular velocity of P1 is double the angular velocity of P2. So in that case, we can just try to imagine how the second planet will appear to us. So we'll just take this case, and this is P1, and this is P2. This is P1 and this is P2. If you just take the angular velocity of P1, okay, is 2 times the angular velocity of P2. So if this moves 45 degrees, then P1 would move 90 degrees. If this comes to 90 degrees position, this is the first position. This is the second position. When P2 comes here, then P1 would be here. Yeah. So now with this case, can you just imagine how the motion of P2 will be? So yeah, you can take some time to draw and see and imagine. So just try to imagine how planet 2 will occur to an observer in planet 1. So another question: if both the planets are moving at different angular velocities, okay, and if I try to see the path of P2 with respect to P1, okay, now let us just, since you have already analyzed this case, if W1 and W2 are just 2 arbitrary numbers, okay, and if we are trying to look at the model with P1 as the center, as a frame of reference, okay, is it clear that the path of P2 around P1, is it clear if it is periodic or not? So here in this case, when both are equal, when P1, when omega 1 and omega 2 are equal, we see that it is a circular motion, so it is clearly periodic.
Yeah.
Right? So after some time, so if you fix a person on planet 1 and fix his angle of the elevation of his eyes, then after a fixed duration, he'll keep seeing the planet 2. Right? Now, if W1 equal to W2, sorry, if the angular velocity of planet 1 is double the angular velocity of planet 2, in this case, what do you think is the answer? And in a general case, is the path periodic at all in the first place?
In W1 is equal to 2W2, that case, yes, it is periodic. General case, okay.
All right. Yeah, but W1 equal to W2 will give us an idea of how the planets will actually move, right? if not the full picture, like the Venus one was extremely beautiful and complicated.
Mm-hmm.
At least it starts giving glimpses.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, wait. So again, now after this discussion with W1 equal to W2, have you like changed your response for W1 equal to 2W2? This is the second case.
No.
No, fine.
Yeah, actually, I just realized when I worked this out, I've treated them like points.
Yeah. So yeah, I still have not seen that. I just thought you mentioned, you described it as a butterfly or something, right? Yeah, but yeah, you can relook at it again, once again.
Yeah.
Right. So now if angular velocity of the first planet is double the angular velocity of the second planet, we'll just assume a person standing in the north pole of planet 1. And to see planet 2, he has to look exactly westward. So this planet 2 will appear in the horizon. Right. Now, say when this planet has gone here, okay, we'll keep the planet has gone to 90 degrees. Okay, if this planet has gone to 90 degrees, where would our planet 2 gone?
45.
45 degrees. So in this case, now the person has to actually look above to see the planet P2. So here it is at horizon, and at this point, he has to look above. But if it is a point in between, okay, if it is a point in between, then say if it is 22 point, say if it is 45, then this would be to 22.5. Planet 2 would have come to 22.5.
Yeah.
So here it goes even below the horizon, right?
Yeah.
So starting from here, so here at this position, it is exactly at the horizon. At some point here, it has become invisible. It has gone below, and then sometime here it has just like suddenly come up.
Yeah.
So these are discrete positions. Yeah. So if you make it a continuous thing, then you'll see what is happening. So Jagdish sir, for your question, right? Actually, I was trying to come to that question, but then I think it is a bit difficult to go there. But I did some calculations. It need not be the time taken for Saturn to go around the Sun and the time taken for Saturn to go around the Earth, right? It need not be the same. First of all, what would the path of Saturn be around Earth? Is it a circular path?
I don't know about it.
No. So if you actually just take this simple case of a second planet moving at half the speed of first planet, right?
Yeah.
And try to imagine the path in the path of planet 2. It gives an idea of how complicated the motion of Saturn will be. So it is precisely this that our ancient astronomers used to differentiate planets and to differentiate stars and planets. Right. Yeah. And so at this point, I'll just again I've raised a few more questions. Yeah. So we will wrap up the discussion here. From next week, we'll continue with our algebra exploration, which is much simpler than this.
But nice detour.
Yes, it was a nice detour. Check this. Thanks for this.